In this unit, we're going to talk about solving and graphing inequalities. And inequalities, what makes them different from equations is that we will be using greater than and less than signs, and we're going to be using 4 different types. And you can see them listed here. I often refer to the greater than and less than sign as an alligator because it looks kind of like a mouth. And when the mouth is pointing to the right, that means less than. Could also be called fewer than. If the mouth is pointing open to the left, that's greater than. So if I gave you something, or we'll be still using variables in this. Sorry, go back a slide. If we have y, and then we have our sign there, and 7, this means y is less than 7, and this means a is greater than 13. So it's just important that you kind of understand the wording of that. I know sometimes the greater than and less than signs are confusing to people. Two other types that you're going to see here is when there's a line underneath, and what that means is less than or equal to, or if it's pointing the opposite direction, it's greater than or equal to. And when it comes to graphing those, as we're going to see in a couple slides, we're going to do those a little bit different than we do if they're just a greater than or less than. So to solve these problems, right now in this lesson we're just going to work with adding and subtracting. You won't see any multiplying and dividing. And basically they're done exactly like equations are, just remembering to do the inverse operations and doing the same thing to both sides. So again, I always start on the side with the variable, x minus 45. So pretend like this is an equation. We would add 45 to both sides. So I'm going to add 45 and add 45. My 45s would cancel. I bring down my x. I bring down the sign. 13 plus 45 would give me 58. And it says, then graph the solution on a number line. And I think we're going to save that for a slide because I want you to see on the next slide that'll kind of help to know the specifics of how to be able to graph these problems. So hopefully you can see just from this problem that I've worked that really nothing changes as far as there being a greater than or equal to sign in these problems. So the next slide is going to kind of give you some hints for how to do a number line. So obviously with solving an equation, make sure your variable is on the left side. Put the number that is in your solution in the middle of your number line. So you're going to make a number line, go up to the right 2 numbers, go down to the left 2 numbers, just so that has proper labeling. So you shouldn't just have one number on your number line. And then this is where the number line graphing is a little bit different. So if there is a line underneath, meaning that it's greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, you will use closed circles to represent that. So that means if we have a number line, we're going to have something on it that looks like that. And if there is not the line underneath it, if it just means greater than or equal to, we will use an open circle over the number that we're trying to show. And then we'll shade to the left or right depending on the sign. So if we go back a slide to what we had before for this one, so remember our answer that we came up with was x was less than or equal to 58. So if I was going to graph this, what I would need to do is I would draw my number line. It said put the number that I come up with, 58, in the middle, and then I'm going to put 2 numbers on each side of it. So the next number up would be 59, and the next number up from that will be 60, and then 2 numbers down, so we're going to have 57, and we're going to have 56. Try to space them equally if you can. And then I need to have a closed dot because it has the line underneath to show that it's greater than or equal to. So there's going to be a closed dot here. And then I need to shade in the proper direction. This is probably the part that most people mess up on. If I read this, what I solved for, I came up with x is less than or equal to 58. So think about a number that is less than 58. 56, 54, 10, 25, those are all less than 58. So I would shade in the direction of where all those numbers are at. Well, obviously they're going to be to the left here. So I'm going to shade this direction, and I like to darken the line a little bit, and then I'm going to put an arrow meaning that my value for x is going to be somewhere to the left of 58. It could be really far down that direction, or it could be fairly close. So when you solved equations before, we solved it to be x equals 58 or x equals 7. It was very exact. It was one spot on your number line. Now you're saying with inequalities that it's somewhere in a direction. We don't know what the value exactly is, but it's somewhere less than or equal to 58. Okay, so we're going to do another example here. 19 plus y equals is greater than 16. No equal sign there, of course. So we're going to start here by getting rid of this 19. We would do that by subtracting 19 from both sides. 19's cancel. Y is less than negative 3. And then it also asks me to graph this. So again, we're going to put negative 3, not just 3 on the number line. Then two numbers in either direction here. Be careful on this, since every number is negative. This going to the right would be getting closer to 0, so this is going to be negative 2, and then negative 1, and then this one would be negative 4 and negative 5. And then I need to have an open dot over 3 because it's not greater than or equal to, it's just greater than, so there's going to be an open dot. And I know that y is going to be greater than or equal to negative 3. Well, greater than means that I've been getting closer to 0, so I should shade to the right this time. Darken my line in. And put an arrow. And I'm done. Okay. Next problem here, x plus 31 is less than 84. So we will subtract 31 from both sides. Leaves me x over here. 84 minus 31 will give me 53. And then it asks me to graph it again. Same thing. Put my 53 down. This one will be 52. 51. Going up will be... I'm sorry, I messed that up. I was used to doing negatives here, so I'm going to erase those numbers. Went the wrong direction with my numbers. This should be 54, 55, because they're positive numbers. And this should be 52, and this should be 51. It can be a little confusing since we don't have 0 on there, just knowing which direction you're supposed to go each time. But remember, numbers that are going up are going to the right, numbers that are getting smaller go to the left. And then I should have an open dot here again on 53, and then I'm going to shade because it says x is less than 53. So I'm going to shade to the left this time, and then have my arrow. Alright, so here we have negative 5 plus m is less than or equal to negative 13. So we're going to add 5. Sorry, should add 5 to both sides here. Those cancel. M is less than or equal to negative 8. And then to graph this one again, my negative 8, remember that our values are going to be getting you're getting bigger negatives if you go to the left here. It's getting smaller. Negative 9 and negative 10 are both smaller than negative 8. And the numbers this direction, negative 7 and negative 6. I should have a closed dot over negative 8. And its m is less than or equal to negative 8, so I should make a line going to the left and then an arrow. And there are a couple more problems here on the last page. It just says just to solve these, just so some added practice, we're going to add 17 to both sides. Those will cancel. N is going to equal, remembering to keep, sorry, there should be an equal sign. You can tell we just finished the unit on equations because I keep wanting to say equals. So we'll still have this greater than or equal to sign, and then negative 23 plus 17. If I subtract those, same rules for integers. Negative 23 is further from 0, so we get negative 6. So n equals negative 6. Over here, I would subtract 83 from both sides. Those cancel. X is less than, and then when I subtract 83 and 26, because the signs are opposite, so that's going to give me 57. And then I have my answer for that. So those, it doesn't ask me to graph them, and I'm done. So hopefully you see that equations are very, very similar to, or inequalities are very similar to equations, and now you should be ready to attempt the first practice, where you're just going to be working on graphing and solving problems, that inequalities that have adding and subtracting in them.